Hi, this is Chris with Everydayvba, and in this Macro Monday, we're going to be going over the perfect number, and this is the solution. So we're going to dig right in. How we're going to solve this is we're going to create a table, and we're going to create a table, and we're going to add up those numbers. Should be awesome. So I've got my table started right here. I've got my number, I've got my divisor, and I've got what that integer looks like. Now, if you don't know what a perfect number is, let me just pull it over. A perfect number is a number that when you divide it by its divisors, it equals that number. So for example, 6 is the first one, so 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. So we're actually going to do that in code, and really the goal here is to find the second perfect number. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to find the first perfect number. So to do that, we're going to create a couple loops. We're going to do a loop within a loop, a nested loop, and it should be fun. We're actually going to use for loops. You could actually use do loops if you wanted, but for this case, I'm going to use for loops. So we're going to call this perfect. Alrighty, so we're going to do our first loop. We're going to do C. Actually, we'll do N equals 2 to 6. Next. And anytime you'll notice when I'm coding here, if I do a for loop, I'm going to do the end of that loop. Just like if I do an if statement, I'm going to do the end of that if statement. That way I just don't get lost in my code. So it's just kind of a best practice. So we are going to do all of our numbers from 2 to 6. So we're going to start at 2, and we're going to go to 6. So what we need to do is for each one of those, for 2, we need to find all the divisors of 2. We got to find all the divisors of 3. We got to find all the divisors of 4 up to 6. So in order to do that, we're going to do a nested loop for, and this we're just going to call this I for like inner equals 1, 2, and we're actually going to go to whatever in is at that time. And I realize this is really kind of a pretty difficult challenge, but once you kind of understand some of the concepts we're doing here and can kind of figure out what's going on, you can do a lot. If you understand how to solve this problem, you can really crush it as far as Visual Basic goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our numbers right here. We're going to put our divisors, and then we're going to use the integer to turn that integer into a whole number. And if those whole numbers are equal, then we're going to add some stuff up. So we need to have a counter. So we're going to use P for our counter. We need to set that to 0. And we're going to go cells I plus 1. Now I need to do plus 1 because I have headers. It's kind of a best practice to put in headers, but it can make your when you're copying stuff to your sheet, it can make it a little difficult. So we're going to do 1, 1, and that's going to be equal to I. And then we're going to do I plus 1 comma 2, and this is going to be in divided by I. And then we're going to do same thing, I plus 1 comma 3 in divided by I, but we need to make this an integer, which turns it into a whole number. I'll actually also show you how to do this as a mod. It's basically the same code, it's just you're using a different function. Modulus is kind of a funky little math deal. It's kind of fun though. Anyway, moving on. So we're going to go if P, if we need to do an if statement here, and we're going to say if I is not equal to n, because this is kind of important. We're not adding 6 here, so you do 1 plus 2 plus 3, that equals 6. So we need to make sure that we're not duplicating it. The only reason I know that is because I was trying to write this up when I was kind of studying for this, and I found that I was doubling my numbers. So was able to kind of figure that out in this piece. So if I is not equal to n, and we're going to say this, so we've got a nice little nice little if statement. Actually didn't need to do the cells in there. We'll just need to do this. It's going to yell at me. The reason it's yelling at me because I don't have it then. And if. I'm going to go p is equal to p plus I. Now, once we've made it through that, what we have to do is we have to do a test after our nested for loop, and we have to basically say if n is equal to p, then, and again I'm going to do that end if right there. I'm just going to do a message box, and we're going to say you found a perfect. It's funny when I'm typing this stuff, vbOKOnly, comma, and we're going to put you are a rockstar. And we are done. So this is the basis of it, and now we know from basically from 2 to 6 we're going to do our check. We would expect this message box not to show up until we get to 6. And because we're counting up, we actually don't need to delete our table, and I'll show you as we walk through this, it'll kind of make sense. So we're going to start at 2. We got to reset p to 0. That makes sense because we're going to get back to that. We need to reset that. We're going to make this equal to I, which is going to be 1. We're going to divide, it's going to be 2 divided by 1. That's going to give you 2, which is perfect. And that is a perfect round number, which means that we're going to add it up. P is equal to, we only have 1 there, right? So, which makes sense. 1 plus 1 is not equal to anything, right? So that's, again, that's how that works. So we need to reset P because we've already done that for 1. Now we're going to do this for, we're at 3. So we're going to do this for 3. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. Notice that those changes. This actually won't change the 1, but your divisor as well. So again, we got 1.5. We're still only to 1. And again, 1 does not equal to 3. Does not equal 3. So if we go through this again, now we're on 4, and you'll notice that it's changing down here. You know, 4 is equal to 3. Again, that would be 2 plus 1. And we are rolling through here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit F5. We are on 5, and you'll notice that 5, P is equal to 1 because it's only divisible by 1. Makes total sense. We're going to do it again. Now we're at 6. We've got our 3 plus 2 plus 1 right here because we're only adding the ones where they're equal. We found a perfect number. So now that we've done that, let's see if we can find the next perfect number. We're going to just take this to 100. I'm going to stop this, and we're going to hit run. Now if you, oh, hold on. That's funny. We found a perfect, found another one. Looks like 28 is a perfect number. And it looks like that is it. So it looks like we made it to 100. It looks like 28 is the next perfect number. So I want to only add one little piece here, and that is and this is going to be I. And you'll notice that it just adds up everything up. I'm going to go to 100 again. Let's run this again now that we've got our added information there. We found a perfect number, 7, which is not, it's not 7. It's funny. I think that's because what happened here is I turns to 7, and then it exits out of the if. So what we are going to do is we need to change that. The problem is we're in the middle of a macro, and so it's going to keep going until we're done. Now to break out of that, you'd hit Control break. Control break. That would break you out of that. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to change that so that it is equal to we're going to just make it equal to P. Actually, it should be equal to N. Either one would be fine. Now, if we wanted to clean this up a little bit, we could actually come in here. The greatest way to clean this off would be just do cells11.currentRegion.offset 1 0 clear. And this may not make a whole lot of sense, but really what that does is it finds the current region. I'm going to put this in right here, and I'll kind of explain what that does. I really didn't know about current region for quite a while, and once I discovered it, it really just changed my coding a lot, and a ton. So what current region does is we are going to go to cells 1 1. And if you hit Control A, it's going to select that entire region, which is great. And that entire region, that's the same thing as current region. So what this does is say is I want to select all of it. Control A, that's all it's doing. And then I want to offset it by 1 row, so I'm going to move it down. And really what that's going to give you right here is it's going to give you this +1, and we're going to clear it. So it's going to delete it out every time, which is just a nice little touch. So we're going to delete that. We found a perfect number 6, found a perfect number 28, which is awesome. Now it's going to add everything up. It goes down to 100, and we are good. So let's see if we are correct. It looks like the next perfect number is 28, followed by 496, and looks like 8,128. We're not going to do that because that loop would take a very long time. You know what? Actually, we are going to do 496, just so I can show you what it's like to break. So there it is. We're at 28. It's going to roll. It looks like it's dying because it's working. If I hit Control break, you'll notice it does not do anything. So that's really because I'm processing too fast. Now the way around that would be, see if it made it all the way down there. It did, 496. The way around that is to add in a little DoEvents. That's one single word. And what that does is when you're running code, sometimes you're running it so fast, you're processing it so fast that Excel actually doesn't take a second to listen to Windows. And so you add that DoEvents, and what happens is it looks for that Windows option. So hit F5. Let me just make sure. I'm going to open this back up. We're going to go 497, and we're going to run it just for giggles. All right. So we got 6. We got 28. And like I said, if I hit Alt Control break, yeah, it did give it to me. If I hit Control break while that loop is running, it's going to give me code execution is interrupted, and I can hit debug. Now I did get that message box. I had to go to 497. Oh, that's because I'm 2. That makes sense. So, alrighty. Well, that is the solution. Hopefully you're able to learn something. The code will be included in this, and I hope you can dissect it. Makes a little sense, and hope you're learning how to code and enjoying it. Make sure that you, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Everyday YouTube channel. It's great. If you like this video, make sure you hit like. Hope you enjoyed.